Hey guys, it's Fred. Good morning. Making a video in response to Jack Hatfield's most recent video. First of all, I want to say I don't know Jack. Never met Jack. Messaged him. He messaged me once, and I'm going to show that message later on as the only interaction we've ever had. But I have nothing against Jack. I don't know him to have anything against him. I don't agree with his Hatfield McCoy history lessons that he gives, but other than that, I have nothing. And some of his exhibits, one we'll want to talk about as we go along. But I've got to respond to this video, to his video, and just for the viewers that we have, or that want a response. And in Jack's video, Jack, I don't know why he thinks as long as he doesn't mention a person's name that it's okay or something, but that's not me. I mention people's names. That's the difference in the two types of the way we are. Jack, somebody was bragging and said, Jack's so much kinder, so much nicer than Fred. Well, very well may be. Very well may be. What you see with Fred's what you get, like it or not. And but in the last part of that number 8 video we just did, Jack's at the end, he's smiling, saying, let's love our neighbor, let's get along with our neighbors, let's do all these things. He talked a real good talk. And then I showed you a clip of a video off his page where he's into it with his neighbors. He calls one neighbor a troll. He's mad at another neighbor because they won't let him go across his property to get to his property and so forth. I don't know the whole story. I watch Jack's videos just like Jack watches ours. And especially, and I watch Leo's when they're about Hatfields and McCoys. But he doesn't mention no names, but he's referring to me. Once or twice there, I think he referred to Sheila. And Sheila don't have a mean bone in her body. What I say on these videos that I'm saying pertains to me and my thinking. Sheila may very well agree, and then some things she may not agree. But that's just the way it is. I try not to ever say anything that I can't prove or back up. But we're going to move on, and he doesn't mention no names. We're both adults, so I think that that it's okay to mention who we're talking about here, not be ashamed about it, to confront the person. Let's start at the beginning. Years ago, Jack had run not years ago, it's about 2 years ago, had run a thing on one of the Facebook pages, Hatfield McCoy Facebook pages, where he was going to start a museum. Mom and we had posted, the family had, I'll get to who owns the museum and all that later on, but the family had posted a thing that might possibly sell the museum or some artifacts. And Jack had contacted me inquiring about it. It's the first time I ever heard from Jack Hatfield. At least this Jack Hatfield. There's several Jack Hatfields over the years that I've known, but I'll show you a message at the end, and we did a video on this before, but I'll make it easy on you. I'll just show you the little text where I asked Jack, which I ask a lot of people questions as you're talking to people when they're talking about the Hatfield McCoy feud. You ask questions to see how knowledgeable they are. Are they making it up as they go, or do they know the history? Are they really related to family members, as any good investigator would do? And I asked Jack if he knew handsome Jack Hatfield and Stephen Hatfield. Stephen Hatfield is a was a friend of mine and Sheila's and Paul Hatfield. Paul Hatfield was a detective, a chief deputy in Pike County Sheriff's Department when I was a detective there. And we had made friends with Stephen over the years and his wife, Debbie, and knew him well. And Stephen knew the Hatfield, Devil Anse Hatfield history well, probably better than anybody we've ever talked to. And Stephen was like Fred. He didn't care on either side. He would tell it good or bad, and he knew the bad. He knew a lot. And we became good friends. And Stephen, from what he used to tell us, Stephen was good friends with Dwight Wilson, the editor of the newspaper there in Logan County. And anyway, Jack said no, he didn't know Stephen or Handsome Jack, but he sure did like that name, Handsome Jack. We both laughed about it. During that text, two things caught my attention. Jack didn't know Stephen or Jack, Handsome Jack, and we had never heard, Sheila and I had never heard of this Jack Hatfield. So over the last almost 4 years, we had never knew or met or heard of this Jack Hatfield. At least we thought we knew all the West Virginia Hatfields, Oklahoma Hatfields, all these characters that had shown up over the years representing Pike County Tourism or other entities. We thought we knew them all. And then Jack showed up. We'd never heard of Jack. But he was claiming to be the relation of Devil Anse Hatfield. Guys, let me ask you something, if you would. This video here is going to be showing on my page, my YouTube page, Fred McCoy 40. 40 was my unit number in law enforcement. Fred McCoy 40, and Sheila will have a link on it on her channel over to that one. If you would go over there, or if you're watching this video, you're there now. But if you would like and subscribe above, I don't have that many subscribers because I've never used this channel. But when I do projects like this, this is probably the channel that I'm going to use to do it on. I'm not going to use Sheila's channel because she doesn't like anything controversial. Even though the Hatfield-McCoy feud is controversial, she over the years has kept me pretty restrained as far as watching what I say or do. And I'm trying to do that with my own self now, trying to live right. So I'm going to try to present this video in a nicer manner. I've got to respond. A person has the responsibility and the right to take up for himself and defend himself, just like Jack did. But I thought it was odd that in all the years we'd been researching a feud, we'd never heard of Jack or his relation to Devil Anse. And I thought it was odd that he didn't know his relation to Stephen or Handsome Jack Hatfield. Handsome Jack Hatfield is actually the son of Tennis Hatfield. Tennis was his father. And Henry Hatfield was his brother. Now, there were some other brothers that it's questionable about who. We won't get into that. That's one of the reasons there's DNA requested, but we're going to get to the DNA part after a while. But we thought it was odd that he was saying that he was from that area, but he didn't know Stephen or Debbie or some of those people. I asked Jack on that text message there to call me because I wanted to get him on the phone and I wanted to ask him some questions. He's never called to this day. That's been a couple of years ago. He's never called. I think he knew what I was wanting. I was wanting to ask him some questions. How are you related? Where you been at? And so forth. He never called. So, did that raise my suspicions? Did that raise my curiosity? Of course it did. What I know about Jack is from his videos, his neighbors, and Hatfield family members, or people associated with the Hatfield family. First, let's get this out of the way. I have no prejudice at all against Jack. My interest is in Hatfield-McCoy feud history and the way that they have taken Devil Anse Hatfield, a deserter, a thief, a murderer, and they've turned him into a hero. And they took a Civil War soldier that fought, was taken POW, and they turned him into a victim and a scoundrel. That's my interest. And if anybody can prove me wrong on that, then that would be great. Then I would have to change my take on it. But there's no way to prove anybody wrong on that. That's just the way that it was. That was their lives, except for what was written in the history and spoken in the history afterwards. I don't know Jack personally. What I disagree with Jack about is the Hatfield-McCoy history. Been told since arrived on the scene. He's been telling his own form of history since he arrived in Sarah. Let me start from the beginning. Years ago, Wright County Judge, Executive Paul Patton, who went on to become Kentucky governor before leaving office, he decided to bring tourism to Pike County. So Hatfield's and McCoy stories and even locations of graves were discovered. Monuments were put up, because if you're going to have tourism, you're going to have people visiting. You got to have things for people to see. And things were discovered and found that other people didn't know about. In other words, things were made up in order to draw people in. Along came three gentlemen, Ron and Bo McCoy. Ron was from Durham, North Carolina. I did videos on this. If you guys have seen them, that's great. And nothing's changed on it. You're going to hear the same thing, but I won't be cutting in and out to other things, responding to Jack, so you may want to stay tuned, but it's up to you. And Bo McCoy from Waycross, Georgia. Bo McCoy now lives in Chillicothe, Ohio, from what I can find out. Tried to contact both these gentlemen. Neither one of them will contact me, because I want to question them. I want to talk to them. I want to ask them why they did what they did to John and Barbara Vance, who was behind it. And the third gentleman was Rio Hatfield. I'm going to tell about the lawsuit. Done videos on the lawsuit. But there's a lawsuit downstairs, and I'll take a picture of it, post it at the back of this video. And that's where Bo and Ron McCoy came into the picture. In 2001, they filed a lawsuit against Barbara and John Vance. John Vance was the great-grandson of Crazy Jim Vance. John Vance was just like Stephen Hatfield. He knew the history, especially on the Vance side of it, and he didn't care to tell it. Good or bad, he would tell it. He was good friends of mine and Sheila's. We enjoyed talking to that old man and listening to his history, much of which he could prove and substantiate. Or you could look at history and tell that what he was telling was the truth. You can go see the video on the lawsuit. I'm not going to go into it, but in the end, Ron and Bo lost the lawsuit, and it was against John and Barbara Vance for the rights to make the cemetery public, where the 6 McCoy children were buried. The cemetery was always public until a suit was filed. So they created a problem that wasn't there. And then along came Rio Hatfield. Now, Ron and Bo McCoy decided, along with Rio, that 911, World Trade Centers is down, disaster. Let's get us some publicity here. Let's sign us a peace treaty between the Hatfields and the McCoys. I've said it 100,000 times. Hatfields and McCoys got along before the feud, after the feud, during the feud. It was only a small fraction of Hatfields and McCoys involved in this feud. the fighting. There was only 12 people killed. But they decided that for a publicity stunt, they would sign a peace treaty. Now, there'd already been 2 peace treaties taken care of by a whole lot closer relatives than what they say they are. And won't go into that. We've got story after video on peace treaty. What got me about this peace treaty is Ron and Bo McCoy had filed a lawsuit against John and Barbara Vance. And in 2011, Rio Hatfield was interviewed by author Dean King. Dean King's a fine author. Does his research, like everybody else. Makes mistakes, we all do. Just like Jack, just like us. We're not beyond mistakes. We're not saying we're perfect on our history. We do ask if we're wrong to prove us wrong, and we'll change it. You know, I skipped over it at the beginning, but that brings me to the point of Jack made a hour-long video. And he was talking about how incorrect or how bad or how he'd been treated or misquoted or scenes had been cut out, scenes had been put in, so forth. That's why we used the video. So you wouldn't have to take our word that somebody said this or they said that. Right there, there was nothing. We just didn't want to show the entire video. There's a law out there, the Fair Use Act, where you can use people's videos. You don't want to show the entire video. I don't want to show the entire video. Let people go to his site and look at it. So we put Jack's own video that they had done so you could see for yourself, the person watching the video, that it wasn't something we made up. It was something that he had actually said or stated. Jack had an hour there to show you any documentation to prove us wrong, any videos, anything that he wanted to. He had an hour in that video to prove us wrong, that we were incorrect on what we said. What did we make up? What did we misrepresent? He didn't show you or tell you about one thing. He just said that been treated wrongly. See, that's what we do. We go by proof. Now, these 3 gentlemen I'm talking about right now is the 3 gentlemen that come in there, that, along with William Keith Hatfield, he would later come in and put his mark. He's from Oklahoma. Rio Hatfield's from Waynesboro, Virginia. Grew up in Huntington, West Virginia. None of these guys is from Pike County or Mingo County, West Virginia, Logan County, none of them. But they come in there because tourism needed somebody to speak on their behalf with the Hatfield McCoy name. None of the local people, Hatfields and McCoys, wouldn't do it. Nobody was interested because the feud has always caused hard feelings. Nobody is ever going to agree on everything about the feud. It's just not going to happen. So when Jack come in there, he'd already had bad representation because he was going to try to follow the footsteps of Ron and Bo and Rio Hatfield and William Keith Hatfield and thought he could say just about anything he wanted to say, and nobody would ever say anything about it. And over the years, nobody had said nothing about it because Sheila and I both worked, had jobs. We didn't want to mess up our retirements or our jobs getting into the Hatfield-McCoy history because we knew there would be repercussions, disagreements. When we retired, we started calling Ron and Bo, started calling Rio, started calling William Keith Hatfield out on things that they had said, made up. Along come Jack. Also had to call Jack out. We don't enjoy proving people wrong. We'd rather them prove themselves right. Show us the proof, the documentation, and that would be great. That would be history. But what did Rio do? Rio, in a 2011 interview with Dean King, he tells Dean King that the article was in Granta magazine. It's on the internet. And he tells Dean King that in 1947 that his grandfather was raiding a brothel, interrupted a patron, and he got mad, the person did. shot his grandfather in the back 3 times. Grandfather turned around, shot and killed him, and happened to be a McCoy. Well, his grandfather, Alan Hatfield, did in fact shoot a McCoy. He shot Hubert Bay McCoy in the base of the head, the base of the brain. According to the autopsy report, Hubert Bay was unarmed and killed him dead, assassinated him. Alan Hatfield was indicted, arrested, charged, sentenced, convicted, sentenced to 5 years hard labor for the death, killing, murder of Hubert Bay McCoy. Now, Rio doesn't tell that. He doesn't tell that nowhere in history, and that was 2011, and it goes all the way up to 2017, 18, whenever it was that somebody contacted Sheila and I and said, would y'all look into this? Because at that time, we had been, we'd wrote books and different things. We just hadn't really taken to YouTube. And we did, and we found out that everything that Rio had said, every story he told, everything he said about his grandfather being shot in the back 3 times, especially by McCoy, was nonsense. He even did an interview, and we played that in the number 8 video. Jack's talking about that, because Jack was bragging on Rio and Ron and Bo. He wanted to bring these names into the mix. He wanted to add them in with him. He wants to be associated with them, because at one time they had some credibility before people found out that what they were doing was for publicity and wrong. Rio got called out on Hubert Bay McCoy, along with Stolen Valor, different other things that we've done videos. They're back through our library of videos. And stepped up when local Hatfields and McCoys would not. That was Rio and Ron and Bo. They needed somebody with that name, and those guys stepped forward, along with William Keith Hatfield later on. They had the name, and that's what the tourism needed. From about 1999, new stories were created. People, family, people just let it go. They could say anything they wanted to. Nobody said nothing about it. It just, most people don't want to be involved, don't want to be in controversial. You know, there was a time when Sheila and I wrote our first book. I was telling a cousin of mine, one of my favorite cousins, favorite families on Blackberry, favorite Hatfield family of all my cousins, best family ever was. And I was telling her we were writing a book on the Hatfields and McCoys, and she got a little upset. She don't get upset. She's the most laid back. The whole family is. Sweet family. And she said, Fred, you're going to cause a lot of hard feelings when you do that. And I said, well, that's not my intent. My intent is to straighten out history, our intent. And she said, well, you know, all my life, my grandfather, every time you open a book or see a book, you see a book of my grandfather, Floyd Hatfield, which is my great-great uncle. That was Preacher Ance's brother. You see a picture of Constable Floyd being distributed as that of hog stealing Floyd Hatfield, because they both had the same name, Floyd. And they had used her grandfather's pictures all them years to symbolize hog stealing Floyd. That was wrong. It's one of the first things that Sheila and I and Paul, Barry, that's one of the first things we worked on, straightening out. And we tracked it down to Coleman C. Hatfield's book was the first book to ever publish that picture. And once it was published by Coleman C. Hatfield, after that, every book around, every author, or so-called author, would use that photo, just like they do the 3 McCoy boys laying on the porch. And they say, that's the 3 McCoy boys. That's not the 3 McCoy boys. That's the McClarys and from OK Corral. That's actually in the museum in Arizona, Tombstone. That's not the McCoy boys, but everybody uses it because it gets attention. Sometimes there's more important things than getting attention. Sometimes the truth seems to be more important. I told Sheila one day when we retired, we would call these people out. And we did. And we have. And we still are. In the meantime, along comes Jack. He had met Ron and Bo McCoy and newcomer William Keith. He had bought right into the thinking that he could just make up history as he went along. By this time, I'm retired. I'm speaking out. Sheila and I had written books. We even did an experiment. We're going to discuss in a video one day of an experiment that we did just to prove our point, and it proved our point. It's very interesting. This ain't the time for it, but we won't go into it right now. It's going to be another story, but it's how gullible people can be. We start doing YouTube attempting to correct history. Come upon the stolen valor, the discrepancies in the Hubert Bay stories. All the time getting sidetracked with new history, new stories. All the time we're trying to look at these old stories and correct them. These people out there, they're making them up as fast as we can correct them. Along comes another YouTuber's story. And this YouTuber says, Devil Ants, one video he says he had $4 million. Next video, Devil Ants was a millionaire. He had $5 million. And then later on, a week or two later, he says, Devil Ants, he had $7 million. That may be little to some people, but that's written or spoken in the history. That's not true. We don't care. And we don't care if he's a millionaire or not. We want the history. Now what? And we ask for the inheritance, the bank statements. You know, it was so bad finances was on Tennis that Tennis burnt the home place down. That home place would still be standing there today had Tennis, Devil Ance's youngest son, not burn it to the ground to collect insurance on it. That's how bad they needed money. There's one ad where they're asking for donations to help pay for the monument in the newspaper. $7 million? And we're not supposed to correct that or at least question it or at least ask for proof? So let's start with Jack's 3-video segment. He's got 3 videos, 3 segments of a video. We responded with evidence that we could correct. We don't know Jack's personality. We have nothing against Jack. I like to confront stories told with proof, especially if they're false. That's what we did. Guys, I know I'm reading, but I want to get this accurate. I want to get this straight. So if I start talking, now you can see I've already repeated myself several times because I'm going ahead of my notes, and that's what we did. My first response to Jack's video was, why didn't he show proof? He says in his first video he likes to show documentation and proof. Well, that's Sheila and I. That's what we've always said. We like to show proof whenever we can. We're the first ones to start that years ago. And now you'll hear other book authors and people says, oh, I've got this and I show that. That's great. And we love it. But they got it from us. Civil War records, the whole thing. They got it from us. And again, he could have showed us proof where we was wrong, just like we were showing proof where he was wrong. Made an hour-long video with more incorrect information and excuses. For life, that video will be out there. Sad for him, but this ain't a pity party. You know, it was like he was having a pity party. It was like he was feeling sorry for himself. Cheer up, man. It's life. It's called life. There's none of us out there that don't have issues and problems, and there's nobody. Cheer up. And he's right about one thing. The history does give you a way out. See, I'm talking on my own. You can see when I'm talking fast. But it does give you a relief. It gives you something to do and something you enjoy doing. And researching and history has always been mine and Sheila's. We enjoy researching. But you can't just go out and make the story up as you go, because people pay attention to that, and they will pay attention to that in years to come. 50, 100 years from now, somebody sees that video and they start believing that stuff, just like they did on Devil Ants over the years. Look at Devil Ants' life and history, how it's progressed, how he's turned out to be a hero when he was a villain. The Hatfield gang, desperados. Doesn't give us the right to make up history. just because Jack himself says he goes to schools, social functions, and he tells the history. Yet, he doesn't know the history. You know, Jack can say, I'm not a historian, I'm not this and that, but yet he tells himself in that video, he says, I go to schools and I go to social functions and I put on classes and tell the history of the feud. He's not telling the history of the feud. Just like Leo doesn't tell the history. Leo tells stories. Stories and history is two different things, guys. History is something that actually happened. A story is something someone told you, or you're making up as you go, and maybe you're telling the story. A lot of things no one knows, and we get it. There's a lot of things that Sheila and I don't know. We've never said we know it all. But you can't fill in the blanks as you go along. That's been the problem all along. Had plenty of time to show everyone where we were wrong. Once again, he could have proved us wrong at any point on anything that we might have said in our videos. He made 3 videos. We made 8. We didn't want to show his entire, Mr. Hatfield's entire video. We just wanted to show the points that we wanted to pick out. And to be honest with you, we could have picked out probably 3 more, done 3 more videos on other discrepancies, but we didn't want to be that nitpicky, but a lot of discrepancies. A lot more discrepancies than there was any correct information. We were correct. The reason he didn't correct us on anything that we had said on those videos is because Sheila and I were correct on what we said. He couldn't prove us wrong. It's like a defense attorney. When an attorney has nothing else to try to prove his client innocent in a court, in a trial, he'll start attacking the police officers. Credibility, the police officers' work ethics, whatever you want, but he'll attack the police officer. It's all he's got to go on is attack the officer because the evidence is there against his client. And that's what Jack seemed to be doing in his video. He wanted to talk about his life, personal things in his life, his parents, Hatfield family, but he never corrected not one thing. In fact, I don't want to go over it yet, but it'll be here in a minute. But he makes one correction. He makes one correction. I'll correct myself here, but you'll hear what it is in a minute. Is it a correction? We'll see. None of this is personal against Jack. I can't say that enough. Why everybody wants to, in history and life, if you try to prove somebody wrong on something, you're the bad guy. You could make up a story that a World War II hero come home from the war, joined after Pearl Harbor for his country, went over there and fought on Omaha Beach, honorably discharged, comes home, gets a job in the coal mines. This coward police chief who wanted to get him reputation shoots him in the back of the head and kills him dead while he's unarmed, and says that he shot his grandfather in the back 3 times before the grandfather shot him, when that's frivolous, false, a lie, total lie. You can say that, and you can say it with a smile and a handshake and a giggle. You're a hero. But you let old Fred McCoy come along and say you're a liar. You know, when you don't tell the truth, you tell something that's not true, it's a lie. Nicer ways of putting it, but since Sheila's not here to beat me half to death, kicking me and hitting me and coughing and clearing her throat, I can say that. When a person says something that's not true, it's a lie. And that person would be a liar. They made up a story on Hubert Bay McCoy that was untrue. We correct it and people gets on us. Like we're the bad guys. What if that's a member of your family? We know a member of his family. She was a little 1-year-old girl at the time. She's getting up there now, just had a birthday a couple of days ago, but it's not personal, guys. Nothing we do is personal. We love history. We're history lovers, history buffs. Let's talk about where Jack says he's never mention names. You know, in Jack's video there, he says, I've never mentioned names. Really? At the end of this video, we'll show you. We're on one of his videos where he's talking about the troll. Somebody asked him, said, Fred and Sheila McCoy proved that that gun you got is not the gun in that picture. It's fake. And he makes a comment, that old man, he's stupid as clown, or whatever he calls it. He makes some kind of comment. I don't know. It's okay. I'm big. Big guy. I can take the name calling. There's nothing you can call me. I ain't never been called in 40 years I've been a police officer. But he's name called. Him and Leo's got on the videos and joked about old Fred, the horse, the devil ances, and throwing slangs at me. That's okay. They've talked about our museum with all the pictures and don't get out and climb the hills. And, well, I've had back surgery. Sheila's got a bad knee. We don't get out as much as we'd like to, but can't hold that against us. But you can. There's been all kinds of times that they have actually named us. But it don't matter if you name somebody or not. If that's who you're talking about, and you make it that clear that's who you're talking about, you might as well just come out and name them. Why? Why not? Maybe you've seen the videos where him and Leo make jokes about Devil Ance's horse and Fred. Maybe you've noticed things they've said. How about references to museum photos? How about statements made on Facebook, YouTube channel? About me. Personal attacks. Yet, he says he's never named us for nothing. He don't know why we do videos about him. Sheila's not doing a video about him. Anything that's said about Jack Hatfield usually comes from me. Now, Sheila would do history. Now, if it's history and she can prove it, and the facts are there to do it, then that's not talking about somebody or spreading rumors or lying on somebody. That's telling the history and correcting. There's nothing wrong with that. See, I'm trying to live right. Been trying to live right for a while. And it hurts because I started not to even talk about Hatfield McCoy stuff anymore because I do get passionate. But if you don't talk about it, if you don't correct it, it's only going to get worse. Believe what you want. Some say Jack's nice and Fred's mean. Well, again, believe what you want. Maybe that's just our personalities. Maybe I'm straightforward and Jack's not. Does it give either of us the right to lie? It don't. No matter what our personalities are, we don't have a right to make things up as we go. We don't have a right to, we can't do that. We can get mad at the other one afterwards if he calls us out or on it or something, but don't make us liars. First couple of minutes of the video, he says he made a mistake. Devil Ants didn't have, this is what I was talking about a while ago, where I say he never made the first correction. Well, he did. He made this correction. Jack said that he made a mistake. That Devil Ants didn't have 11 kids. He did have 13 kids, like Sheila and I stated and posted. He said that was right. He did have 13 kids. It was Randall McCoy that had 11 kids. Wow. Guys, Randall McCoy had 16 kids, Randall and Sarah. 16 kids. Once again, that's something that's spoken into history like it's a fact on his video. Maybe minute to some. What if you're really out here researching the feud and it's the first video you ever click on, you see there and you say, oh, okay, so Devil Ants had 13 and Randall had 11 kids. Some person, some school kid, some researcher already got the wrong information because they believe that. And again, something as elementary as children and names and facts like that, if you can't remember those things, and you can blame it on medication, you can blame it on whatever you want, then if you're that affected by the medication and not know anything, why are you out giving history lessons to social media groups, to schools and school children and stuff? That's you're probably not the best person to be doing that, I would think. Maybe minute to some, to us, or at least to me, and Sheila too. Certain things to Sheila. She's just not in on this video, but Sheila's as much a history lover as I am. Jack says one time in the video there, it's not about the money. Well, I beg to differ. In my opinion, I think it's all about the money to Jack. Jack's college education is in marketing, is in making money. He went to college and majored in marketing, making money. And there's nothing wrong with it. But that's just one more thing that shows the proof that there is money making involved in with Jack. Says he's never received one grant, any money from grants. Later on, he says he received some grant money from somebody. I don't want to nitpick. I'm just trying to prove my point. He says one time he's never received any grant money. A few minutes later, he says that he's received grant money from one grant. Well, which is it? He talks about his greedy family members. It's mixed in. But he's not referring to me. He's talking about his Hatfield family. He says that on his own video. His greedy Hatfield family. I don't know who he's talking about. Unless it's Rio and William Keith. That's the people that he deals with. Can't be Ron and Bo McCoy. They're McCoys, or they say they are. Again, we're going to get to DNA in a minute. Not just on the Hatfields, but McCoys as well. I've never just asked for Hatfield DNA, but Jack says, and this may be minute, but I just want to show you how to do things, but Jack says he was an EMT. It's not hard. It's not a hard record to check. Was Jack an EMT? Because there's a difference between calling yourself an EMT than there is just riding around in an ambulance with somebody. EMT, there's a test to take. There's classes to take. There's things you have to do. There's even a national register. Now, once again, we know that some of the other family members have been accused of stolen valor. Is this stolen EMT? I don't know. And it may be minute. Just something stands out to me. That's why I wanted Jack to call me a couple of years ago when we first made contact so I could find out. I could interview. I could see where Jack's coming from. He very well could be a EMT, and if there is, there would be proof. He could show us something, and again, that would prove Fred wrong on something. I'm trying to give Jack everything that he can to come back, and I don't mind Jack coming back. He can say Fred, he can address the video. I don't care. Again, if we're wrong on something, correct us. And I'm not even saying I'm right that he's not an EMT. He said he was an EMT. And I'm questioning that because I question several things on these other four gentlemen that I've mentioned. All of them has made statements that have been proven wrong over the years. And that just makes me distrust other people. Jack says he was raised in... Oh, that's not going down. Jack says he was raised in Wyoming County. Well, guys, I got news for you. Wyoming County is not in Logan County. That's not Sarah Ann. That's not Devil Anse Hatfield's. That's not Island Creek. That's not Devil Anse's domain, family domain. Wyoming County's another location. That's why he didn't know Handsome Jack, Stephen, and Debbie Hatfield. He wasn't raised, nothing to do with Devil. That's why he doesn't know the Devil Anse Hatfield history. Jack said he's had 2 DNAs. First question was, why 2? You know, DNA are, one's all you need. They don't make mistakes on them. They're there. What it says is there. Second question is, if it shows Devil Anse, what's his grandfather? I heard somebody this morning say, that's slanderous. ask somebody for their DNA and question, really? It's slanderous? If I told you I was Johnny Cash's son, would you not want to say, Fred, prove it? Abraham Lincoln's my grandfather? Prove it? Somebody makes a claim to something and it's slanderous to say, prove it? You know, before we could say all these things, people could. No way of proving it. Now there's DNA. You can prove it now. It's real simple. Spit into a cup, swab your mouth, send it in. They'll send you the results. Now, once upon a time he said he hadn't had none. Then he says he's had 2. Did they compare? You know a good way to shut Fred McCoy up? The best way in the world, and whether you like me or hate me, think about this. What would prove Fred McCoy wrong faster than anything that could happen? See, I don't know if it's going to prove me wrong because I don't really have a take one way or the other. I don't care if he's actually related to Devil Anse, and very possibly, could be. But I would like to know the truth. And I like to know the truth on Devil Anse's part. Once again, without getting into this DNA stuff, years ago, people contacted Sheila and I, and they said the Hatfield Association or something, they've been trying to do DNA, and from the few people that they'd been able to get DNA on that claimed to be Devil Anse's descendants, it was coming back as another. It was coming back as Vance DNA. That's what they told us. Now, I don't know a thing about DNA. I don't know a thing about none of that stuff. Enough to comment on it beyond what I've been told, what I've asked for. But they told us that they needed more Hatfield descendants that say they're from Devil Anse. They need to test their Y DNA. The Y DNA only comes from the male, from father to son to so forth. It's not comparing to Hatfield. Now, that doesn't change Devil Anse's life, reputation, stuff like that. He's still Devil Anse. He may be Devil Anse Vance, Devil Anse Hatfield, Devil Anse Wallace. Who knows? He may be Devil Anse Hatfield. Maybe a fact. What's so hard to prove about that? That I question after these people contacted us, and then we asked the question thinking, because they said we've been deleted off of the Facebook Hatfield McCoy pages. Every time we ask the question, they delete us and block us. Wow. Seems like that's something people would want to know, not block you. That just raises my curiosity. I don't know. You know, it's not just Devil Anse. It's a person's great-great-great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, great-grandparents, grandparents. Anywhere along that line, anywhere along that cycle, has anybody ever, on any of us, anybody ever stepped out? People has affairs. People has problems in their families. Anybody? Because anywhere down through there would break the cycle, the line from Devil Anse, unless it was a Devil Anse's daughter. But any of his sons, that would break the Y DNA down through there. If one of them was not actually the father of one of the other ones. I don't know any of this, but slanders to ask somebody to prove what they have said, what they're running a business on. They've got a business says he's famous family royalty. Royalty. He's claiming to be royalty. So is it wrong for a person to ask Prince Charles to take a DNA test to prove that he's who he says he is? I don't think it is. And over the years, I've got over 40 years of being in law enforcement. There's one thing I did do. I made a few friends with attorneys, so it ain't like I don't have attorneys. And again, I've said this before, sometimes a slander suit may be the best thing could ever happen to all of us. All of us. That way there's something called discovery in a civil suit. And maybe we could file discovery and people could get people's DNA. Because if you're going to file a suit on assumption that you've been insulted or your credibility, or first you got to prove that that's really who you are. Now, going back to my first comment a while ago, what better way to shut Fred McCoy up or prove me wrong? If I actually had a DNA or two DNA, well, I've got my DNA, but if I was somebody else that Fred was questioning, and I had a DNA, especially two DNAs, and it proved me to be who I say I was, or my ancestors, I would be showing it to Fred McCoy. I'd be showing it on that video. I'd at least show the part where it says Devil Ants. It says that's absurd. I'm not giving my DNA out. Guys, DNA is not like your driver's license. It's not like your social security number. It's not like your date of birth where somebody can steal your identity. DNA is yours. That's yours. Fingerprints, yours. Nobody else has it. Set of twins don't have the same fingerprints. It's a good way to shut Fred McCoy up. Would be a DNA. I'd like to know not just Jack and Rio and William Keith. William Keith says he's the grandson of Tennis Hatfield and Sadie. Tennis and Sadie. That's handsome Jack Hatfield's mother and father. That's Henry Hatfield's mother and father. Sadie and Tennis. Tennis Hatfield says had all kinds of children. Wall Hatfield said he had 5 wives and 35 children, I believe. Devil Ants is known to have had affairs. It's in history. It's in some of their own books. And they question me as to why I would want people to have a DNA. Ron and Bo McCoy. Who are they? Where are they from? Where did they come from? They say they're the great-grandchildren of Randall McCoy. Are they? Don't know. There's another McCoy that comes out there and says he's this and that, but is he? Is it wrong to ask for proof? It's going to be a long video, guys. Sorry, you either like it or you don't. May have to watch it in parts, but the facts will be out there. And the facts will stand when Fred McCoy's gone someday. I would shut Fred up so fast, I couldn't show him the DNA test fast enough to show that I was related to Devil Ants, to Robert, and that Robert was Devil Ants' son, and Devil Ants was actually a Hatfield. That would be great. You'll never hear nobody publicize it or talk about it or correct other people faster than Fred McCoy would. Because I'd like to know. If you want to tell your family history, at least know for sure that you're who you say you are, and let other people. He says he's had a test from 23andMe and Ancestry. I took an Ancestry test. You know, he says in the video there, if you're related to me, you'd know it. You'd show up. Well, I took an Ancestry test. Jack's never showed up on my thing that it shows your tree down there, 7th cousin, 10th cousin, whatever they show. Jack's never showed up. Devil Ants Hatfield's my great-great-grandfather. Devil Ants Hatfield, Lance Hatfield were first cousins. Their fathers were brothers. George and Big Eve was brothers. Our DNA would meet somewhere down through the lines. We would be related. I'm not seeing Jack. Now, again, doesn't. Well, I've not seen Jack. I don't know if he's seen me on his, but certainly not seen him, because if I did, I wouldn't be asking these questions. Something's not right, I'll tell you that. Why is DNA important? In the videos, contacted, we're talking about the DNA there. I'm ahead of myself there, not showing Hatfield by mistake. Never know until you're tested. You know, again, people don't never know until you're tested. Before, people didn't have DNA. You could only assume that your mom was who she was, your grandma was who she was, the your dad was who he was, your grandpa, your great-grandpa. You can only assume. We don't have to assume that anymore. Now there's tests you can take that can prove that. One affair, one family violation could break the DNA chain. It could mess it all up. No accusations, no claims, no assertions. It's my opinion. I'm allowed my opinion. And that's why a test is needed from all of us who claim to be related to the Hatfields or the McCoys. I've had one. Should want to take one. Anybody that speaks out and says they represent one family or the other, first of all, we should make sure that they are actually Hatfields or McCoys, instead of hanging on to the coattails of others. I'm not a hater of Jack's. I don't even know Jack, and I certainly don't hate him. I may not like the history lessons he gives. I may not like some of the things he says, but I certainly don't hate Jack. I relate to Jack in a lot of ways as far as comedy. And Jack's, I've watched some of his videos where I've cracked up. He's seems like a fun, loving person. I just don't agree with his history. I wish he would just research, and if he's going to say he's going to tell the history and show proof. Cap not allowed to be buried on the Hatfield Cemetery. You know, it was said that Cap Hatfield wasn't allowed to be buried on the family cemetery with devil ants. And Leo says that in one of his videos, or two of his videos. And along with the millions of dollars that devil ants had, and now it comes out that Jack says that he's the one told Leo that. They were talking about it on a video the other day again about the millions. Cap Hatfield wasn't buried on Devil Ance's cemetery because he didn't want to be buried there. After Devil Ance died, Cap took Lavasia and took care of her. He kept his mother with him. She died at his house. Do you think if Cap wanted to be buried on the family cemetery, he couldn't have been buried there? Lavasia still alive when he died? You know, well, she died in 1929. He died in 1930, the following year. He didn't want to be buried up there, but to make a story up and say that, that's just not fair. That's not fair to the Hatfield family. You can't talk to George now. George is deceased. Stephen is deceased. But all the people, there's other people back there that knows. There's other Devil Ants relatives. I heard Jack say that. I could be mistaken on this, but it seems like he said on that video that he was the only closest living relative to Devil Ants now or something. And that's Stephen Hatfield had a sister. We talked to Stephen Hatfield many times. He's got a sister named Pat. And if I remember right, she lives in Florida. So that would have been Handsome Jack's daughter, Pat would. There's other children around there and around from other descendants. Jack's not if he is in fact the great-grandson of Robert Hatfield. And you know, Leslie Moore Rivers, her grandfather was the family doctor. That woman knows more Hatfield history and more things that happened in that family than anybody we've ever talked to. And you talk about a historian, and there's several around. Maybe a minute. That's talking about Leslie and Stephen Hatfield. Leslie Moore. Just want correct history. Guy called the other day and asked Sheila and I, what do y'all know about this? And we said, we've never found no court records. We've never found no trial. We've never found no. We don't know except what we read in the newspaper, and the newspaper said this. And he had another newspaper that said other things. We don't know. We don't make it up as we go. If we don't know the history, we'll tell you we don't know. We don't know everything. As bad as some people wants to act like they do, nobody does. And credible records to confirm one way or the other. Nothing wrong with not knowing. Wrong is rather than making up a story. Guys, we have over 500 videos with research in our library, in Sheila's YouTube library. We ask to prove us wrong. We welcome. We want to correct history. We won't get mad at you. You got to show us proof. We love it. Jack says he's a gun-toting hillbilly Hatfield, or something to that effect. He brags on that. He's a gun-toting hillbilly Hatfield. And I say, really? Really? This is the man on the video stating that he is mentally unstable, or at least has mental problems to the point of being treated by a doctor, taking as many as 12 pills a day, and having a service dog? This is the same person that says he's under a doctor's care, he's on 12 medications, and he totes a gun. As a former law enforcement, carry concealed deadly weapons instructor and trainer, my question would be, does Jack have a CCDW permit from West Virginia? And if so, why hasn't it been revoked? You know, that's one of the things that will keep you from getting a carry concealed permit, is having mental issues, felon, different things like that, but especially mental issues. And even if he doesn't have a permit, why hasn't his doctor reported this, that he has issues and that he's armed? He says it right in his videotape. There's no denying it. He says he's a gun-toting Hatfield. So he gets mad at people for proving them wrong. Is he fibbing? Is he lying? And he don't really carry a gun? I don't know. But for somebody to get mad because he's called out on things for being incorrect, surely he won't come out and tell a straight out lie on video. I'm going to take him at his word. I believe him. Big question there is nothing personal, but concerning when people make this statement, especially publicly, and we're required to report. Remember, see something, say something. Everybody watch that video of Jack and him saying he totes a gun and him telling you his mental capacity or lack of medication, different things. We're required to report that. If we don't, and something happens and he does something, one of these school functions, given a history lesson or social function that he talks about, and somebody does something, and he does something wrong, then I watched his video. And tomorrow morning or Monday morning, I'll be calling the Logan County Sheriff to report it, for them to watch that video. I don't care if they do anything on it or not. That's not for me to decide. But I will report what he stated on that video. Because if we don't report it and something happens, we're all liable. It's our duty. Medications and guns don't go well. We all know that. Alcohol, guns, medication, no, none of that stuff goes well. We've seen enough of that in 40 years. Jack mentions, I'm almost done, guys. Jack mentions our disclaimer. The part Jack refers to is in reference to FS Investigates, where Sheila and I periodically do research and news stories, just as news organizations do by using the word allegedly. You know, if you're watching the news, they'll say allegedly he was arrested, or allegedly he fought back, allegedly. Well, they used allegedly on a video where it shows one man shooting another right on video. It's live, and they'll say he allegedly shot him. Say allegedly if you want. My eyes tells me that he shot the guy. Point blank. Cold-blooded murder. But, yeah, we have a disclaimer at the back of our video. Why? I really don't know. Sheila and I live in an apartment. We sold everything we had. We have nothing. The museum, our part of the museum, belongs to our grandchildren. The McCoy family owns the rest of it. That was Mother's. That's why we can't agree on opening, closing, or whatever. Sheila and I just happen to take care of it here because the apartment's with it. So, Why a disclaimer? I don't know, but we've got one. But video clearly shows. Once again, museum belongs to the family, minus Sheila's part belongs to the grandchildren. Everything else is LLC and trademarked. Hatfield McCoy Museum is actually trademarked. I seen a while back where Jack actually, in fact, it's in that video there, him and Mr. Hatfield. I seen where Jack's talking about copyrights. That's Fair View Act or whatever it's called, but for the video. But it's definitely a violation when something's trademarked to reference yourself to it. I'm not now, but that's just, again, just, people wants to get nitpicky. That's why we're not afraid to stand up and tell the correct history. Sheila and I decided a long time ago when we got ready to call these people out, we decided right then we didn't own enough or have enough. Shucks, we're out here hunting down interstate masked shooters trying to get money to pay our overpayment from Social Security. We're supposed to worry about being sued. Again, sometimes a suit is not a bad thing because a suit allows both parties, and there's countersuits. You can file a countersuit. No doubt would get all kinds of attention for them if that's what they're wanting. But besides that, I'd like the discovery part of it, because you can file for a lot of discovery that people may not be aware of. Show proof when you can. He says that last thing he mentioned was that gun. We made a video where he tells Josh Garnes from Huntington, West Virginia. In a video, Leo had tucked Josh up there, and Josh looks at the picture and he says, "Is that gun right there?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "That exact gun right there Devil Anse is holding?" He said, Yeah. Well, I'm here to tell you, no. It's not the gun at all Devil Anse is holding. And we did videos on it. You can go back and look at them. Because we show you the comparison. We show you the difference. We show you that it's not true. And then Jack made the statement that he had a 1950s magazine with Devil Anse being interviewed in it. Gun magazine. He points down toward the floor. We've asked for it on that video. Show us that. The reason I'm bringing this up right now is because on that comment, on that video Jack did on the troll, on his neighbor, Larry Chafin. He calls Larry Chafin a troll, but all through some of these videos, you see Jack out videotaping Larry Chafin, or he's walking down to the new road, and he says his troll lives down there. And so he's always, I've not seen the first video Larry Chafin has done on Jack Hatfield, but he's the troll. But on that video, Jack, that's where Jack comments about Fred McCoy, an old man, don't know nothing, a stupid old man, or whatever he calls me. Somebody asked him there, said, "Jack, show us that 1950s magazine. Show us Devil Anse's interview." That was his comeback. Fred McCoy don't know nothing. Well, Jack said he had a 1950s magazine where they interviewed Devil Anse Hatfield. Devil Anse Hatfield died in 1921, guys. No laws on carrying or hunting. He says that now, this was just new in the video the other day. He said that Devil Anse had that shotgun because it was a breakdown model where he could conceal it. Conceal it? Devil Anse showed his guns to everybody coming and going. First thing he did when T.C. Crawford come to his house from New York was take him in there and show him the 30 and 45 rifles and the Winchester rifles all over the beds. Said every bed in the house had rifles, guns on it. And he's worried about breaking his gun down there. You don't have to conceal it. There's never been a concealed law against a long gun, a rifle, or a shotgun. Wish Jack nothing but the best. You know, Jack, guys, I'm going to tell you about Jack. Jack's a smart man. I have to brag on him. He's intelligent. He's got a college degree. He worked for one of the biggest insurance companies, if not the biggest, in the land. as a executive, I admire him. That's something to be proud of. Definitely something to be proud of. Sheila, me and her discussed this yesterday. We don't try to belittle Jack on his manhood, on his life, on his education, on his career choices, and his personal life definitely doesn't. That's between him and God. Never, he put that in there that we never said anything about his personal life on the videos that we did. We knew his personal life because a lot of the Hatfields in that area and different people don't agree with it. Nothing to us. We don't live there. We don't. That's Jack's business. But we admire his education and his job that he had. Had to be smart to do the job that he done. That tells me that with a little research, Jack could be a good historian. If Jack would get off the Hatfield, the Devil Ants fan club and quit making the stuff up that he was this hero. He don't, Stephen Hatfield, Michael Hatfield, every one of them would tell you the truth about Devil Ants. They would say that's my great grandfather or my great great grandfather, but the truth will stand. I don't know. I'm done, guys. That's going to complete this video. At the end, I'm going to get Sheila, or I'll probably have to do it myself, but I'm going to show you the message from Jack Hatfield to me where I asked Jack, does he know Handsome Jack or Stephen Hatfield? And he says, no, can't say as I do. Well, that's his relation. He says he's Robert Hatfield's great-great-grandson. Stephen would have been Tennis Hatfield's great-grandson. I'm going to show you a picture of the lawsuit board downstairs where Ron and Bo McCoy filed a lawsuit against John and Barbara Vance. Show you a copy of the peace treaty where Rio and Ron and Bo got the news coverage and made history on the peace treaty, even though they're the three of the ones that's made up some of the most horrific tales or lawsuits it's ever been. Show you the difference in the guns, but there's a video on that you can watch. Other than that, Jack, we wish you the best. We wish you nothing but the best, Sheila and I do. We have nothing at all against you other than some of the items that's been, for somebody that, he worked all of his life in insurance. How would he feel if I come to him and try to tell him the history of insurance or how to sell insurance or how to... I worked my whole life since the 5th grade on Hatfield and McCoy research. Last 40 years, almost 40 with Sheila, with my wife, where that's been our hobby. And then to have somebody come in and just completely rewrite, especially since 2001, since Ron and Bo and Rio and William Keith showed up, and now we got Jack to deal with, and with all the research and hours that's been done over the years, we're supposed to just sit back and say, don't say nothing. We might make somebody mad. We might hurt somebody's feelings. Maybe those people that post the wrong pictures and act like it's my great-great-grandparents on their YouTube channel, maybe they should think, am I hurting his feelings? Maybe that'll hurt his feelings if I put the wrong picture on of people. We can't do that. It affects people. Catch you next time. Hey, tell people about Fred McCoy 40 and subscribe to it. So I start putting stuff on myself too.